Daniel Carter stood at the loading dock of New Haven's main spaceport, checking cargo manifests on his datapad. The morning sun cast long shadows across the metal platforms. He had been doing this job for 3 years now, ever since he moved to this frontier colony world with his daughter Sophie. The work was simple and quiet, which was exactly what he needed. "Dad, don't forget I have soccer practice after school today," Sophie had reminded him that morning over breakfast. She was 8 years old now, with her mother's dark hair and bright smile. Daniel's chest tightened whenever he saw that smile. His wife Laura had died 3 years ago from a disease that swept through the colony. The medical facilities here were basic, not equipped to handle the rare illness. He had held Laura's hand as she made him promise to give Sophie a normal, happy childhood. Daniel had kept that promise. They lived in a small apartment near the spaceport. He made enough credits to cover their needs. Sophie went to the local school and played with other children. Nobody on New Haven knew who he really was, and that was how he wanted it. A large transport ship landed on Platform 7, with a hiss of hydraulics. Daniel walked over to meet it. Datapad ready. The cargo door opened, and several people stepped out. Trade delegates from off-world, dressed in expensive clothing. Daniel recognized the species. Valorians. They were known across the galaxy for their business skills and their love of wealth. One of them caught his attention immediately. She was tall, with smooth blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Her features were elegant, almost delicate. She wore a fitted suit that probably cost more than Daniel made in 6 months. She looked around the spaceport with an expression that suggested she found it all rather beneath her. "Excuse me," she said, walking toward Daniel. Her voice was smooth and confident. "I need to confirm the arrival of several shipments." "Are you the freight coordinator?" "Yes, ma'am, Daniel Carter," he replied, keeping his tone professional. "Which shipments are you tracking?" "Rise." She pulled out her own datapad and showed him a list. As they worked through the cargo manifest together, Daniel noticed she kept glancing at him. Not in a romantic way, but more like she was studying him. Calculating something. "You're very efficient," she said after they finished. "Most freight coordinators on these frontier worlds are lazy and incompetent." Daniel shrugged. "I just do my job." "I'm Zara Velthari," she said, extending her hand. "I'll be on New Haven for a few months handling trade negotiations. I suppose we'll be seeing more of each other." Over the next few weeks, Zara came to the spaceport often. She always found reasons to talk to Daniel. At first, their conversations were about work. Then they became more personal. Zara asked about his life, his family. Daniel mentioned Sophie but kept details vague about his past. "You're a single father?" Zara asked one afternoon. They were having coffee in the spaceport's small cafeteria. "That must be difficult." "We manage," Daniel said. "Sophie is a good kid. I'd like to meet her sometime," Zara said. "If that's appropriate, of course." Daniel hesitated. He had not dated anyone since Laura died. The idea felt strange, almost like a betrayal. But Sophie had recently mentioned that she wished she had someone else to talk to besides just him. A woman's perspective might be good for her. "Sure," Daniel said finally. "Maybe you could join us for dinner this weekend." That dinner changed everything. Zara arrived at their small apartment with a gift for Sophie, a children's book about space exploration that was popular on the Valorian homeworld. Sophie was shy at first, but Zara seemed genuinely interested in her stories about school and soccer. She asked questions and laughed at Sophie's jokes. By the end of the evening, Sophie was showing Zara her drawings and asking when she could visit again. Daniel watched this with mixed feelings. Zara seemed perfect. Too perfect. He had grown up around people who pretended to be something they were not. His instincts told him something was off, but he could not identify what it was. As the weeks turned into months, Zara became part of their lives. She attended Sophie's soccer games, she helped with homework. She cooked dinner at their apartment several times a week. Daniel found himself falling for her despite his doubts. She made him laugh. She seemed to understand the pain of losing Laura. She never pushed too hard, or asked for too much. What Daniel did not know was that Zara had been researching him since their first meeting. She had checked his financial records, his work history, his background. Everything indicated he was exactly what he appeared to be, a modest freight coordinator making around 80,000 credits per year. He had some savings, probably a few 100,000 credits at most. His apartment was small and plainly furnished. He drove an old ground vehicle. He never talked about family back on Earth or connections to anyone important. Zara had done this before. Twice, in fact. On 2 other frontier colonies, she had met human men with modest incomes, married them, and divorced them within a year. Each time, she walked away with a settlement that helped restore some of her family's lost wealth. The Valorian noble house she came from had been powerful once, but bad investments and poor decisions had left them nearly broke. Zara had taken it upon herself to fix that problem, one marriage at a time. She calculated that Daniel was worth the effort. His steady income and savings would give her perhaps 50,000 credits after a year of marriage and a quick divorce. It was not much, but combined with her previous settlements, it would be enough to restore some dignity to her family name. What Zara did not calculate was that Daniel Carter was not who he appeared to be. His full name was Daniel Marcus Carter, and he was the sole heir to the Carter Foundation. His family had been among the first humans to expand into deep space centuries ago. They had claimed mineral rights to 17 star systems before anyone else understood their value. They owned patents on FTL drive components that every ship in the galaxy used. They controlled shipping lanes and held real estate on dozens of worlds. Daniel had walked away from all of it after Laura died. The political games, the constant scheming, the empty relationships built on wealth rather than genuine connection. It had disgusted him. He wanted Sophie to grow up knowing real people, not the parasites who circled his family's fortune. So he had come to New Haven under his mother's maiden name, taken a simple job, and tried to build a normal life. Only 3 people in the galaxy knew where he was. His family's lawyers had been ordered to leave him alone unless he contacted them first. His bank accounts showed only his modest salary. All the wealth, all the power, it was still there waiting for him. But here on New Haven, he was just Daniel, a single dad trying his best. After 6 months, Zara decided it was time to move forward. She arranged a special dinner at the nicest restaurant on New Haven. Sophie stayed with a friend for the night. Over dessert, Daniel reached across the table and took Zara's hand. "I know this might seem fast," he said, "but these past months with you have been the happiest I've been since Laura died. Sophie loves you. I love you. Would you marry me?" Zara's face showed perfect surprise and joy. Inside, she felt only satisfaction. The plan was working exactly as she intended. "Yes," she said, squeezing his hand. "Yes, I'll marry you." They kissed across the table while other diners applauded. Neither of them knew that this engagement would become the most talked-about event in the galaxy within a year. Neither of them knew that Zara's simple plan to steal 50,000 credits would turn into something much larger and more complicated than she could ever imagine. The morning after Daniel proposed, Zara sat in her hotel room making plans. She had done this before and knew exactly how to handle the next steps. The key was to move quickly, but not so fast that Daniel became suspicious. She called her younger brother Kellen on the Valorian homeworld. His face appeared on her screen, looking hopeful. "Did he propose?" Kellen asked. "Last night," Zara confirmed. "We need to move forward with the prenup. Contact that lawyer we used last time and have him draft something appropriate for human colony law." "How much do you think you'll get?" Kellen asked. Zara pulled up the financial data she had collected on Daniel. "He makes 80,000 per year. Based on his age and work history, he probably has about 300,000 in savings. After 1 year of marriage, I should walk away with at least 40,000. Maybe more if he's been saving more than I think." "That's not much," Kellen said, sounding disappointed. "It's enough," Zara replied sharply. "Combined with what I got from the others, we can start investing properly again. Slow and steady. Mother will just have to accept that rebuilding the family fortune takes time." 2 days later, Zara brought up the prenup over dinner. She and Daniel were at his apartment. Sophie was in her room doing homework. "I need to discuss something with you," Zara said carefully. In Valorian culture, it's standard practice to have a prenuptial agreement before marriage. It's not about distrust. It's about clarity and protecting both partners. Daniel looked up from his food. A prenup? Is that really necessary? Please don't take it the wrong way, Zara said, reaching for his hand. I know humans sometimes see prenups as unromantic, but for Valorians, it's just good sense. We're from different worlds, different legal systems. If something ever went wrong, and I'm not saying it will, but if it did, we'd want clear terms. Daniel studied her face. He saw the calculation behind her eyes, the way she was working to seem concerned and reasonable. He had seen this expression before on people trying to manipulate his family's business deals. All right, he said slowly. Let's see what you have in mind. Zara sent him the prenup document that evening. Daniel read it carefully on his datapad while Sophie slept. The agreement was written in Galactic Standard Legal Code, which he understood perfectly thanks to years of training in his family's business. On the surface, it looked fair. Both parties would keep their separate property. Any assets gained during the marriage would be split evenly if they divorced. But there were traps built into the language. The definition of assets gained during marriage was deliberately vague. It included not just new income, but any property or financial instruments that became accessible during the marriage period. The lawyers had crafted it so that even wealth owned before the marriage could be considered accessible if it was touched or moved during the marriage. Daniel smiled grimly. Zara thought she was being clever. She thought she could take half of his modest savings and move on. She had no idea what she was actually setting up. He made one addition to the document before signing. A simple clause that required full disclosure of all assets within 30 days of any divorce filing. It seemed like a reasonable protection for both sides. Zara's lawyer approved it without much thought. Are you sure about this? Daniel's family attorney asked, when Daniel called him on a secure line late that night. She's clearly planning to rob you. Ah, I know, Daniel said quietly, but I need to be sure. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she really does care about us. And if you're not wrong? The attorney asked. Then she's going to learn a very expensive lesson about assuming she knows who she's dealing with, Daniel replied. The wedding was planned for 6 weeks later. It would be small. Just a few friends and colleagues from the spaceport. Sophie was excited to be the flower girl. She spent hours picking out the perfect dress. Zara's brother Kellen arrived 2 days before the wedding. He was younger than Zara, with the same blue skin and elegant features. Daniel noticed that Kellen and Zara spent a lot of time talking privately. When they thought he was not listening, they spoke in their native Valorian language. Daniel understood more Valorian than they knew, but he let them think their conversations were private. Are you sure he doesn't have hidden wealth? Kellen asked his sister in Valorian. I've checked everything, Zara replied. He's exactly what he appears to be. A simple freight coordinator with simple finances. Stop worrying. Crazy. The wedding took place in a small garden park that Sophie loved. The weather was perfect. Daniel wore a simple suit. Zara wore a traditional Valorian wedding gown that probably cost more than Daniel supposedly made in 3 months. Several of Daniel's co-workers attended, along with parents from Sophie's school. Kellen served as Zara's witness. The ceremony was conducted by a colony official who handled both human and alien marriage contracts. When he asked if there were any reasons they should not be married, Daniel almost spoke up. Almost. But he saw Sophie's happy face and decided to see this through. They signed the marriage documents, including the prenup. Daniel's signature was steady. He was committing to something he knew was probably a mistake, but he needed to know for certain what Zara's real intentions were. The small reception afterward was pleasant. People danced and ate cake. Sophie gave a short speech about how happy she was to have a new mother. Zara smiled and hugged her, and Daniel watched carefully. The hug seemed genuine enough, but there was something mechanical about it, like Zara was going through motions she had practiced. That night, after Sophie was asleep, Daniel and Zara sat on the small balcony of his apartment. Their apartment now, legally. Thank you for understanding about the prenup, Zara said. I know it might have seemed cold. I understand protecting yourself, Daniel replied. We barely know each other, really. 6 months isn't long. We know each other well enough, Zara said, though her voice lacked conviction. The first months of marriage were strange. Zara played the role of wife and stepmother well enough. She helped with household chores. She attended Sophie's soccer games. She kissed Daniel goodbye when he left for work. But Daniel noticed things. Small things. Zara never fully unpacked her belongings. She kept her own bank account completely separate, never adding Daniel to it or suggesting a joint account. She made comments about money often, suggesting Daniel should ask for a raise or look for better work. She researched divorce lawyers specializing in interspecies marriages. She thought she was being subtle, but Daniel saw it all. Sophie noticed too. One evening, about 4 months into the marriage, she came to Daniel's room after Zara had gone to bed. Dad, can I talk to you? Sophie asked quietly. Always, sweetheart. What's wrong? It's Zara, Sophie said, sitting on his bed. She's different when you're not around. She's not mean exactly, but she's cold. Like she doesn't really want me here. Daniel's heart sank. Has she said something to you? Not really, Sophie said. But when I talk about Mom, she changes the subject really fast. And when I ask her to help with homework, she always says she's busy. But when you come home, she pretends we were doing things together all afternoon. Daniel pulled Sophie into a hug. I'm sorry, baby. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought you needed a mother figure. I miss Mom, Sophie said. But I'd rather have just you than have someone pretending. That conversation confirmed everything Daniel suspected. Zara was not building a real relationship with them. She was counting down days until she could file for divorce and take what she thought was half his wealth. At the 6-month mark of their marriage, Daniel checked his secure messages. His family's law firm had confirmed that everything was in place. His real identity was still protected. All his vast holdings were documented and ready to be disclosed if needed. The lawyers had expressed concern about Zara's background check. They had found records of her 2 previous marriages and quick divorces. She's done this before, the senior partner wrote. Twice. Same pattern. Are you going to stop her? Not yet, Daniel replied. Let's see what she does. Zara became more distant as they approached the 1-year mark. She made excuses to avoid family dinners. She spent more time at her hotel office handling trade business. She was preparing, Daniel realized, getting ready to end things and move on to her next target. Daniel thought about his late wife Laura often during this time. She had been genuine and kind. She had loved him before she knew his real identity. When he finally told her about his family's wealth, she had been shocked, but it had not changed how she felt about him. That was real love. What Zara offered was hollow imitation. 1 year and 2 days after the wedding, Daniel received a message from Zara's attorney. She was filing for divorce. The reason given was irreconcilable differences. She was requesting her 50% of all marital assets as specified in the prenup. Daniel read the filing and felt something like relief. Now, he knew for certain. Now there was no more pretending. He called his family's law firm. It's time, he told them. Prepare the full disclosure. Are you sure? The attorney asked. Once we do this, everything changes. I'm sure, Daniel said. She wanted to play games with contracts and money. Let's show her what happens when you don't know who you're playing against. Zara sat in her lawyer's office feeling satisfied. The divorce papers had been filed 3 days ago. According to Valorian law and the prenup she had so carefully crafted, Daniel had 30 days to respond with a full accounting of assets. Then they would negotiate the split. She expected to walk away with somewhere between 40 and 100,000 credits. Not a fortune, but enough. Her lawyer, a Valorian named Thex, who specialized in interspecies divorce, seemed confident. The prenup is solid, he said. Standard galactic contract law. Your husband signed it willingly. Even if he contests it, we'll win. How long until this is finished? Zara asked. 3 months at most, Thex replied. These things move quickly on frontier worlds. The courts want to clear their schedules. Zara left the office and returned to her hotel. Kellen was waiting in her room. He had stayed on New Haven to support her through the divorce. "How did it go?" he asked. "Perfect," Zara said. "In 3 months, we'll have enough to make some real investments. Mother will be pleased." "What about the child?" Kellen asked. "Sophie seemed to like you." Zara waved a hand dismissively. "She'll be fine. Children are resilient. Besides, Daniel can provide for her adequately. I'm sure he'll find someone else to play mother eventually." But Kellen looked uncomfortable. He had spent time with Sophie during the marriage. The girl was sweet and genuine. She had shown him her drawings and told him stories about her late mother. He felt a twist of guilt knowing what they had done to her and her father. 5 days after the divorce filing, Zara received a message from her lawyer. His voice sounded strange when he called her. "We need to meet immediately," Thex said. "In person. Don't talk to anyone else first." Zara felt the first flutter of concern. "What's wrong?" "Just come to my office. Now." When Zara arrived, Thex looked pale despite his blue skin. He had a thick document on his desk, hundreds of pages. His hands were shaking slightly. "Daniel Carter's legal team has filed their response," Thex said slowly. "They've disclosed his assets as required by the Prenup clause," he added. "And?" Zara asked impatiently. "How much does he have? More than I thought?" Thex pushed the document across the desk. "You should sit down first." Zara remained standing and picked up the document. She started reading. Her eyes widened. She flipped pages faster, scanning numbers that seemed impossible. Her legs felt weak. She sat down hard in the chair. "This can't be right," she whispered. "It's been verified by 3 independent accounting firms," Thex said, "and confirmed by the Galactic Commerce Registry." "Zara, your husband is Daniel Marcus Carter. The Daniel Marcus Carter, heir to the Carter Foundation." Zara's hands trembled as she continued reading. 17 star systems with full mineral rights, 4.7 trillion credits in real estate alone. Controlling interest in the largest FTL drive manufacturing company in human space. Patents worth hundreds of billions. Personal liquid assets of 600 billion credits. "This is impossible," Zara said. "He's a freight coordinator. He lives in a tiny apartment. He drives an old car. He wears cheap clothes." "Apparently not," Thex said. "According to this disclosure, he walked away from his family's business 3 years ago, after his first wife died. He's been living under an assumed name. Well, not exactly assumed. Carter is his mother's maiden name. He just dropped the Marcus and the family connections." Zara felt like she might be sick. "How much am I entitled to under the prenup?" Thex looked at his calculations. "Half of everything accessible during the marriage. Based on the way you worded the agreement, that's roughly half of his entire fortune, around 2.3 trillion credits." The number was so large it did not seem real. Zara had been planning to steal 50,000 credits. Instead, she had accidentally positioned herself to become one of the wealthiest beings in the galaxy. "We can win this," Thex said, though he sounded uncertain. "The prenup is legal. He signed it. Under galactic law, you're entitled to that amount." But Zara was not listening. She was thinking about the implications. The galactic media would discover this within days. Everyone would know what she had done. Her plan to quietly divorce a modest colonist had turned into the biggest financial story in years. She was right. 2 days later, the news broke. A journalist on New Haven, with connections to the colonial court system, leaked the story. Within hours, it was the top headline across dozens of worlds. "Valorian woman accidentally marries trillionaire. Marriage fraud or lucky mistake? Carter heir's secret life exposed in divorce filing." Zara's hotel was surrounded by reporters within a day. Cameras everywhere. Questions shouted at her whenever she tried to leave. News ships arrived from other star systems. Financial analysts debated the case on every major channel. The sheer scale of the money involved made it irresistible to the media. Worse, journalists started digging into Zara's background. They found her 2 previous marriages. They interviewed her ex-husbands, who described similar patterns: quick courtships, prenups, divorces within a year. The story shifted from lucky accident to serial fraud. Zara became the most hated woman in human space almost overnight. Social media was filled with people calling her a con artist, and worse. Valorian diplomatic officials on New Haven issued statements distancing themselves from her. Even other Valorians on the colony avoided her. Through it all, Daniel remained calm. He continued going to work at the spaceport. When reporters found him, he gave simple statements. "I hope we can resolve this quickly and fairly," he said. "My only concern is protecting my daughter from this media circus." His dignity made Zara look worse by comparison. People saw a kind, single father who had been tricked by a gold digger. The public sympathy was entirely on his side. Daniel's legal team, the firm of Chen and Associates, filed a countermotion 2 weeks after the disclosure. They alleged fraud, claiming Zara had entered the marriage with intent to steal assets through a manipulated prenup. They presented evidence of her previous marriages and divorces. They called for the prenup to be voided entirely. This was a calculated scheme, the lead attorney told the court. Miss Velthari has a pattern of targeting human colonists, marrying them under false pretenses, and divorcing them for profit. The only difference this time is that she miscalculated her target's actual worth. The case attracted attention from the Galactic Council. Marriage fraud between species had become a growing concern. The council assigned a special arbiter, a neutral Talgorian judge named Keln, to oversee the case. Arbitrator Keln was known for being fair but strict. He did not tolerate deception in his court. Meanwhile, Zara's family on the Valorian homeworld learned what was happening. Her mother called, furious and excited. 2 trillion credits? Her mother shouted over the video call. "You must fight for this money. Our family needs it. This is our chance to restore everything we lost." "Mother, everyone thinks I'm a criminal," Zara said. "The entire galaxy is watching this case." "So what?" her mother replied. "You signed a legal contract. He signed it too. Fight for what's legally yours. Hire better lawyers if you need to." But Kellen disagreed. He had been watching the news coverage and seeing how people talked about his sister. More importantly, he had been thinking about Sophie. "This is wrong," Kellen told Zara after their mother's call ended. "We've been doing wrong things for years, and I've helped you do them. But this is different. That little girl lost her mother. Her father was trying to give her a normal life, and we destroyed that for money. We're trying to survive," Zara snapped. "Our family lost everything. What were we supposed to do?" "Not this," Kellen said. "Definitely not this." 3 weeks after the divorce filing, Daniel requested a private meeting with Zara. No lawyers, no media. Just the two of them. They met in a secure conference room at the Colonial Courthouse. Daniel looked tired but composed. Zara felt nervous for the first time since she had started this life of manipulation. She was about to face someone she had genuinely hurt, and she could not hide behind lawyers or legal arguments. "You played me well," Daniel said without anger. The concerned trade delegate, the understanding stepmother. "You're good at this." "Daniel, Zara started, but he raised a hand. "Let me finish," he said. "I know about your other marriages. I know this was your plan from the start. I knew before I married you, actually. I had you investigated after our 3rd date." Zara felt cold. "You knew?" "I knew," Daniel confirmed. "I wanted to believe I was wrong. I wanted to think you were different. That's why I signed your prenup. I thought maybe if I gave you the benefit of the doubt, you'd prove me wrong." "Then why are you here?" Zara asked. "Because I'm going to make you an offer," Daniel said. 1 billion credits. More money than you could spend in 10 lifetimes. Enough to restore your family's fortune 100 times over. In exchange, you annul the marriage, sign a confession admitting fraud, and never contact me or Sophie again. Zara stared at him. 1 billion credits. It was more than she had made from all her schemes combined. It would solve every problem her family had, and she would avoid years of litigation and public hatred. "Why would you offer me anything?" she asked. "Your lawyers say they can void the prenup completely." Because I don't want Sophie living through years of court battles and media attention, Daniel said. I don't want her childhood destroyed by this mess. 1 billion credits is nothing to me. It's everything to you. Take it. And disappear. Zara looked at Daniel's face. She saw the pain there. The disappointment. She thought about Sophie's innocent questions about her late mother. She thought about the life they had been building before she ruined it with her greed. For the first time in years, Zara felt ashamed. Zara left the meeting with Daniel without giving him an answer. 1 billion credits sat on the table, waiting for her decision. It should have been simple. Take the money and run. That had always been her strategy. But something had changed inside her during that conversation. She returned to her hotel room where Kellen was waiting. He looked at her expectantly. He offered me 1 billion credits to go away, Zara said quietly. Kellen's eyes went wide. That's incredible. You have to take it. Our mother will say the same thing, Zara said. Take the money. Restore the family. But Kellen, if I take it, what does that make me? Smart? Kellen suggested, but his voice lacked conviction. It makes me exactly what everyone already thinks I am, Zara said. A thief who used a grieving widower and his daughter. You are that person, Kellen said, not unkindly. We both are. We've been doing this for years. Why does it matter now? Zara sat on the edge of the bed. Because Daniel knew. He knew what I was from the start, and he married me anyway. He gave me a chance to be something better, and I proved him right about me being awful. Before Kellen could respond, Zara's lawyer called. Thex's voice was urgent. The Galactic Council has formally entered the case, he said. Arbitrator Keln is convening a special hearing. They're treating this as a test case for interspecies marriage fraud. Whatever happens here will set legal precedent. When? Zara asked. 2 weeks. And Zara, there's more. Daniel's legal team has filed additional evidence. They want to call your previous husbands as witnesses. They're building a pattern to prove systematic fraud. After the call ended, Zara felt trapped. The walls were closing in. This was no longer about money. It was becoming about her entire life being examined and judged by the galaxy. The next few days brought more bad news. Investigative journalists published detailed reports about Zara's background. They interviewed her first 2 husbands, ordinary men who described how Zara had charmed them, married them quickly, and left within a year. The men spoke about feeling used and betrayed. One had developed trust issues that damaged his next relationship. The other had never remarried. Too afraid of being hurt again. The Valorian Diplomatic Corps issued a formal statement condemning Zara's actions. Several prominent Valorian business leaders wrote articles saying her behavior damaged their species' reputation in human space. The message was clear. Zara was on her own. Her mother called again, angrier this time. Take the 1 billion credits, she demanded. Who cares what people think? Our family needs that money. Mother. The entire galaxy is watching, Zara said. If I take the money now, I'll be admitting I'm a con artist. You are a con artist, her mother said bluntly. We all are. Our family has been scheming and manipulating for generations. That's how we survived after losing our fortune. Don't suddenly develop morals now. But Zara was developing morals, or perhaps rediscovering ones she had buried years ago. She remembered being young. Before her family lost their wealth, she had wanted to be a diplomat, to build real relationships between species. When had she become this person who used people and threw them away? A week before the hearing, something unexpected happened. Sophie sent Zara a message. Just a simple text that read, "Why did you pretend to like me?" Zara stared at the message for an hour before responding. What could she say? That she had been using Sophie's father? That the kindness she showed was calculated? Finally, she wrote back, "I'm sorry. You deserved better." Sophie's response came quickly. Dad says people do bad things when they're scared. Are you scared? The question hit Zara hard. Yes, she was scared. She had been scared for years. Scared of poverty. Scared of losing status. Scared of becoming nothing. That fear had turned her into someone who hurt children. "Yes," Zara typed back. "I'm very scared." "Me too," Sophie wrote. "I'm scared you broke my dad's heart." Zara closed her eyes. This 8-year-old child had more courage and honesty than she did. 2 days before the hearing, Kellen came to Zara with a confession of his own. "I need to tell you something," he said. "I've been talking to Daniel's lawyers. I offered to testify against you." Zara felt betrayed. "You what?" "I can't do this anymore," Kellen said. "We've hurt people, Zara. Good people. I helped you research Daniel. I helped you plan this whole thing. I'm complicit. But I want to stop. I want to make this right somehow." "By betraying your own sister?" Zara asked. "By telling the truth?" Kellen replied. "Daniel's team isn't even using my testimony. They have enough evidence without it. But I needed to offer. I needed to try to do the right thing for once." Zara wanted to be angry, but she understood. Kellen was trying to save himself from becoming what she had become. Maybe it was not too late for him. The day before the hearing, arbitrator Kellen's office released information about the proceedings. They would be broadcast live across the galactic news networks. Billions of people would watch. Legal experts were already debating the likely outcome. Most agreed that, technically, Zara's prenup was legal. If the case was decided purely on contract law, she would win her 2 trillion credits. But fraud was a powerful counter-argument. If Daniel's team could prove she entered the marriage with intent to deceive, the contract could be voided. That night, Zara could not sleep. She thought about her choices. Take the billion and confirm everyone's worst opinion of her. Fight for the 2 trillion and become the most hated person in the galaxy. Or do something else entirely. She thought about her father, who had died when she was young. He had been a good man, honest in his business dealings. He would have been ashamed of what she had become. She thought about her childhood dreams of being a diplomat and building bridges between species. She had destroyed those dreams herself through years of selfish choices. At 3 a.m, Zara made her decision. She called her lawyer. "I want to address the court tomorrow," she said, "not to argue the case. To confess." Thex sounded confused. "Confess to what?" "To everything," Zara said. "The fraud, the manipulation, all of it. I want to tell the truth." "That's insane," Thex said. "You'll lose everything. You could face criminal charges." "I know," Zara said, "but it's the right thing to do." She called Kellen next and told him her plan. He was quiet for a long moment. "I'm proud of you," he said finally. "This won't be easy." "Nothing worth doing is easy," Zara replied. The morning of the hearing, Zara dressed simply. No expensive suit. No jewelry. Just plain clothes. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. When had she become so hard? So cold? The courthouse was surrounded by media, cameras everywhere, reporters shouting questions. Security had to escort Zara through the crowd. Inside, the courtroom was packed with observers. Daniel sat on one side with his legal team. He looked tired, but calm. Sophie was not there, which Zara was grateful for. The child did not need to see this. Arbitrator Keln entered, and everyone stood. He was a Talgorian. Tall and imposing, with gray skin and 4 arms. He was known for running a strict court. "We are here to determine the validity of the prenuptial agreement between Daniel Marcus Carter and Zara Velthari," Keln began. "This case has attracted significant attention due to the amounts involved and the allegations of fraud. I will hear arguments from both sides before making my ruling." Daniel's lead attorney stood and began presenting evidence. The 2 previous marriages. The pattern of behavior. Financial records showing Zara had researched Daniel's apparent income before pursuing him. Testimony from people who had witnessed her cold treatment of Sophie when Daniel was not around. It was damning. Even Zara's own lawyer looked uncomfortable. Then it was Zara's turn to respond. Thex stood to begin his defense. But Zara touched his arm. "I want to speak," she said. Thex looked panicked. "That's not advisable." "I don't care," Zara said. She stood, and approached the bench. Arbitrator Keln, I request permission to address the court directly. Keln studied her. This is irregular, but I'll allow it. You may speak. Zara took a deep breath. The cameras were all focused on her. Billions of people were watching across the galaxy. This moment would define the rest of her life. I want to confess, Zara said, her voice steady. Everything they're saying about me is true. I entered the marriage with Daniel with the intent to defraud him. I researched his finances. I calculated how much I could take. I manipulated him and his daughter. I did the same thing to 2 other men on other colonies. I am exactly what everyone thinks I am. The courtroom erupted in noise. Keln banged his gavel for silence. Even Daniel looked surprised. Are you certain you want to continue this testimony? Keln asked. You understand you may be incriminating yourself? I'm certain, Zara said. I need to tell the truth. I owe Daniel and Sophie that much. Zara stood in the silent courtroom, aware that billions of eyes across the galaxy were watching her. She had started speaking the truth, and now she had to finish. My family lost our fortune 10 years ago, Zara continued. Bad investments, poor decisions. We went from being one of the respected houses on the Valorian homeworld to being nearly broke. My mother pushed me to find a way to restore our status. I decided the easiest path was to marry humans on frontier colonies and divorce them quickly for settlements. She looked directly at Daniel. I researched you thoroughly, Daniel. I saw a lonely widower with a modest income. I calculated that you were worth about 50,000 credits to me after a year of marriage. I never intended to stay. I never intended to be a real wife or stepmother. I was using you. Daniel's face showed no emotion, but his eyes were sad. I've spent years becoming someone I'm ashamed of, Zara said, her voice shaking slightly. I used to have dreams. I wanted to be a diplomat. I wanted to build real connections between species. Instead, I became a con artist who hurt good people. Daniel gave me a chance to be something better, and I wasted it. She turned to Arbitrator Keln. The prenup should be voided. I entered the marriage under false pretenses, with intent to defraud. Under galactic law, that makes the contract invalid. I don't deserve a single credit from Daniel. I should face whatever penalties the law requires for what I've done. The courtroom remained silent. Even the reporters seemed shocked by the full confession. Keln looked at Zara carefully. You understand that this testimony can be used against you in criminal proceedings? Yes, Zara said. I understand. And you're making this statement of your own free will? No one has coerced you? No one has coerced me, Zara confirmed. I'm doing this because it's right. I'm tired of being the person I've become, Keln nodded slowly. Very well. I will consider your testimony along with all other evidence. This court is adjourned until tomorrow, when I will deliver my ruling. As people filed out of the courtroom, Zara felt oddly calm. She had just destroyed any chance of walking away with money, and she had probably opened herself up to criminal charges, but for the first time in years, she felt like she could breathe. Outside, reporters surrounded her. Questions came from all directions. Zara held up her hand. I have nothing more to say beyond what I told the court, she said. I'm sorry for the harm I've caused. That's all. Back at her hotel, Zara found Keln waiting. He hugged her tightly. That was brave, he said. Stupid maybe, but brave. I should have done it years ago, Zara replied. That evening, the galactic news networks played and replayed her confession. Legal experts debated whether it was a genuine change of heart or a calculated move to gain sympathy. Public opinion was mixed. Some people respected her honesty. Others thought it was too little, too late. The next morning, Zara returned to court for Arbitrator Keln's ruling. The courtroom was even more packed than before. Daniel was there with his legal team, looking composed as always. Keln entered and everyone stood. He took his seat and looked out at the crowded room. I have reviewed all evidence and testimony in this case, Keln began. The facts are clear. Miss Velthari entered into marriage with Mr. Carter with fraudulent intent. She manipulated him emotionally and used his daughter to gain his trust. The prenuptial agreement she crafted was designed to facilitate this fraud. Zara felt her stomach tighten. Under galactic standard law, contracts entered into through fraud are voidable, Keln continued. Therefore, I am voiding the prenuptial agreement in its entirety. The marriage is annulled. Miss Velthari is entitled to no assets or support from Mr. Carter. There were murmurs throughout the courtroom. Furthermore, Keln said, his voice stern, I am fining Miss Velthari 200,000 credits for court costs and legal fees. She will also pay restitution to her previous victims in amounts to be determined. She is being placed on the Galactic Marriage Registry's fraud watch list, which means any future marriage she enters will be subject to special scrutiny and disclosure requirements. Zara nodded, accepting the judgment. It was fair, even generous considering what she had done, but Keln was not finished. I must also address the broader implications of this case. Marriage fraud between species is a growing problem. This case will serve as precedent. Anyone who enters into marriage with fraudulent intent will face serious legal consequences. This court has zero tolerance for such behavior. After the ruling, Zara left the courthouse quietly. No reporters followed her this time. The story was essentially over. She had confessed, been punished, and that was that. The galactic media would move on to the next scandal. But Daniel made one more unexpected move. That afternoon, he held a press conference. Cameras from dozens of worlds focused on him as he stood at a podium outside the courthouse. I want to make a statement about the ruling, Daniel said. First, I'm satisfied with arbitrator Keln's decision. Justice has been served. But I also want to address something broader. He paused, looking directly at the cameras. Zara Velthari hurt me and my daughter. She manipulated us and used us. But I'm not going to press criminal charges against her. She's already facing significant penalties, and I believe she's genuinely remorseful. There were surprised murmurs from the reporters. Furthermore, Daniel continued, I'm establishing a foundation with 50 million credits to help Valorian families who have fallen on hard times. It will provide business loans, education grants, and financial counseling. The foundation will be named after my late wife, Laura. She believed that people deserve second chances, even when they make terrible mistakes. A reporter shouted a question. Why would you help the people who produce someone like Zara? Daniel looked thoughtful. Because desperate people make desperate choices. Zara's family lost everything. And that desperation drove her to hurt others. If we can prevent that desperation, maybe we can prevent future Zaras. Besides, most Valorians are good people. One person's bad choices shouldn't define an entire species. After the press conference, Daniel returned to his modest apartment on New Haven. Sophie was there. Having stayed with a friend during the court proceedings, she hugged her father tightly. Is it over? Sophie asked. It's over, Daniel confirmed. We can go back to our normal life now. Quote, Will Zara be okay? Sophie asked. Daniel was surprised by the question. Why do you care? Because she said she was sorry, Sophie said simply. People who say sorry should get a chance to be better. Daniel smiled at his daughter's wisdom. You're right. Yes, I think Zara will be okay eventually. Zara, meanwhile, was packing her belongings at the hotel. She was preparing to return to the Valorian homeworld and face her family's disappointment. But then she received a message from Daniel's lawyer. The message explained the foundation Daniel was creating. It also included an offer. A position as the foundation's operations manager. The job would involve helping Valorian families access resources and support. The salary was modest, just enough to live on, and slowly pay her restitution. Mr. Carter believes you understand Valorian culture and family dynamics better than anyone else we could hire. The message read. He also believes that redemption requires action, not just words. If you're interested, please respond. Zara stared at the message for a long time. Daniel was offering her a job. After everything she had done, he was giving her a chance to do something good. It was more than she deserved. She accepted. Over the next 3 years, Zara worked for the Laura Carter Foundation. She helped dozens of Valorian families get business loans and education grants. She developed programs to prevent the kind of desperation that had driven her to fraud. She worked long hours and lived simply, using most of her income to pay restitution to her victims. Kellen joined her in the work. Together, they tried to make up for years of hurting people by helping people instead. It was slow, difficult work, but it felt meaningful in a way their previous schemes never had. Zara did not see Daniel or Sophie during those 3 years. She sent them updates on the Foundation's work, but she kept her distance. She did not want them to feel pressured to forgive her. But then, 3 years to the day after the divorce, Zara received an invitation. Sophie was performing in her school play, and she wanted Zara to attend. Zara almost declined. She did not deserve to be part of their lives. But Kellen convinced her to go. "Sophie reached out to you," he said. "That takes courage. Don't reject her courage with your guilt." So Zara went to the school play. She sat in the back row, watching as 11-year-old Sophie performed beautifully on stage. After the play, Zara waited while parents congratulated their children. She was about to leave when Sophie spotted her. "Zara," Sophie called out, running over. "You came." "I wouldn't miss it," Zara said, feeling tears in her eyes. "You were wonderful." Daniel approached more slowly. He looked older, with more gray in his hair, but his eyes were kind. "Hello, Zara," he said. "Hello, Daniel," Zara replied. "Thank you for the invitation. And thank you for everything else. The job, the foundation, the chance to do better." "Thank you for taking that chance seriously," Daniel said. "I've been reading your reports. You're helping a lot of families." They talked for a few minutes about the Foundation's work. It was awkward, but genuine. When it was time to go, Sophie hugged Zara quickly. "I'm glad you're not the bad person anymore," Sophie said. "Me too," Zara said softly. As Zara walked away from the school, she felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. She would never undo the harm she had caused. She would probably never fully forgive herself, but she was becoming someone better, someone who helped instead of hurt. Daniel watched her go, Sophie's hand in his. His daughter looked up at him. "Did we do the right thing, Dad?" Sophie asked. "Helping her?" "Yes," Daniel said. "We showed her that people can change if they're given the chance. That's what humans do best." "What's that?" Sophie asked. "We believe in redemption," Daniel said. "We believe that nobody is beyond saving if they're willing to try." That might be the most human thing of all. Word of Daniel's mercy and Zara's redemption spread throughout the galaxy. Other species began to reconsider their views on human nature. Humans were not just wealthy or powerful or technologically advanced. They possessed something more important: the wisdom to know when to punish and when to forgive. The story of Daniel Carter and Zara Velthari became a case study in galactic universities. It was used to teach young people about contract law, marriage fraud, and the importance of second chances. But more than that, it became a story about what made humanity special in the vast galaxy. Humans could have destroyed their enemies. They had the wealth and power to do so. But instead, they chose mercy. They chose to lift up those who had fallen. They chose to believe that even people who had done terrible things could become better. That choice, more than any weapon or fortune, was what made humanity truly exceptional among the stars.